Today is a special day as I managed to hit Master Rank with the greatest frog. And no, I don't mean Kermit. As the title shows, I managed to get Frog the Jam, aka Slime Toad, into Master Rank 5 only. I nearly got to 4. I was like 2 games away, or 1 game, and then yeah, went back. And it's always maybe a win-win, then lose-lose, or win-lose. It's much harder to win now in the Master Rank with this deck. Funnily enough, if you do want to see how I got this deck into Master Rank, it was on one of my live streams. I think it was on my Wheel of Forfeits series. I was on an 8-win streak in total, and yeah, from Diamond 2, I was like 2 games away to Diamond 1, then from Diamond 1 went straight to Master Rank with this deck. So it was pretty funny. So I think Frog the Jam is like one of the funniest, if not best, vanilla meme card. I mean, just look at his face. So I have him in my Wheel of Forfeits series. It's one of the punishments if I lose. I have to add 3 of him in my deck. So I have to give a shout out to 2 of my viewers, since one of them mentioned it to me, but he got the idea from another viewer, Milik and Diamond. Thanks to you, I made this beauty. Diamond gave Milik the idea of trying Sprights with Slime Toad. Milik then mentioned it to me, and I loved it. I had to do it. Getting Frog the Jam in an actual deck that could get to Master Rank, I never thought it could happen. So I was like, you know what, I have to try. And it makes sense since there are some certain cards that really do help this. Like honestly, it's not as bad as you think. When you look at Frog the Jam, you're like level 2 vanilla. You'd think he's just a complete dead card, but no. There are times when it comes in clutch. So that's the story of how this idea came. Before I started this, I never played Sprights before. I played against them, of course, but I've never played them. I've only played this deck roughly about a week and a half. I had to learn Sprights as I was using this deck. So there was times when I would misplay big time because certain effects will have another effect which I didn't know about, or I didn't really know what the most optimal end board was and things like that. So I just had to learn on the spot. Before we begin the actual deck profile, if you are new to my channel and haven't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all my content like deck profiles or to be updated when I live stream. So with that being said, let's finally begin the Frog the Jam deck profile. So of course, 3 of the GOAT, the guy that makes this deck. Okay, we're not really, but still, he's the godfather, he's the meme lord, he's whatever. It's Frog the Jam. I refuse to say Slime Toad. They're implying he's just slime when he's Frog the Jam. Obviously 1 driver with the Gamma package. Gamma works well in this deck since Gamma is level 2. You do have cards that special summon from the deck, so you could force out your opponent to use a Ash or a Maxine, and boom, you hit them with the Gamma. And then you could use Gamma to get into either a rank 2, link 2, or go into a synchro. 3 Maxi, as always, no need to explain, it's Maxi. We sadly have to play it. Ban this card, please. 1 Imperia, it's always nice to summon. Normal summon or special summon, you get a free draw. 3 Dark Beckoning Beast. I originally had that, I think it was like a Elemental Hero or Destiny Hero. It's one of them where you special summon, but no, this is by far better. It requires 1 extra card, which is the spell card, but this basically is an instant rank 2 or link 2 because you normal summon, search the spell, use the spell to add another one, and then normal summon again. So having 1 of these is a guaranteed link 2 or rank 2. This is a must play in my opinion, must play. Now for the Sprights, nothing out of the ordinary. 2 blue, 1 jet, 1 pixies. I love this card. Obviously you're honest, and we all miss honest when it was actually a valuable card. But I love it when your opponent's about to go into battle phase because you have like a Masquerina and an Elf, and then you summon back blue from the graveyard, add pixies, and they're like, oh shit, now I can't attack. Or some of your opponents don't even know about pixie, they still try to attack and they die, and I swear they just surrender. 2 red and 2 carrot, the monster negate, the spell and trap negate. 2 is fine of each because you can always bring them back with Elf from the graveyard. 3 Ash, like Maxi, must play, amazing card, love it. And 1 Nibiru, 4 in case they try to do the Maxi challenge. Now the spell cards, Unexpected Die. Now this card actually helps so much. Obviously you use this to bring Frog the Jam, so you're not using your normal summon. But what I love about this card even more is if you have this, for example, with Sprite Starter, well, you have to use this first, but you can also use it as a bait. Because once you have Sprite Starter, you pretty much get full combo, but you could still use Unexpected Eye to bait out an Ash or to check if they do have Maxi. So if they did have Maxi, I mean, even if you were going to use starter, they were going to chain to you. So at least then you could chain starter. But if you have like a Gamma on hand, oof, that's when you do Unexpected Eye, Gamma, GG. But yeah, play 3 of them solely for Frog the Jam. 1 Spirit Gates for Beckon and Beast. This adds one of them, but also, which I like about it, you can discard 1 card and then special summon one of those beasts from the graveyard. So let's say you did have a spare Frog the Jam in your hand and you had a Beckon and Beast on the field and you've already normal summoned. Cool, you discard Frog the Jam and then boom, you get another level 2. So it's nice. Honestly, this package, these 4 cards, I just feel like are a must. 2 cool buys and a cross out, usual stuff. Everyone's playing a million hand traps, you need to play it for protection. 2 Spright starters, your 1 card combo, 1 Gamma Burst and 1 Spright Smashers. Gamma Burst is for the OTKs, or if you do draw it and you end with IP and Elf, you can always set this, and then if your opponent attacks on damage step, use this. And Spright Smashers is good for those cards that can't be targeted, or cards like Flamberge that you don't want to send to graveyard, you want to banish it, so easy out. 3 Impermanence, a very solid hand trap right now, since you want to negate those Snake Eye Ashes or anything that normal summons and uses an effect. The thing about Impermanence, what makes it great is it can't be cooled by, and it's good against every single deck. Like Maxi, not really good against Branded or Labyrinth. Yeah, you can get a draw or 2, but usually with Maxi you want to get as many draws as possible or stop a full combo. And 1 Spright Double Cross. Added this recently, I can't remember what I took out, but you usually have an elf or a rank 2 on the field, so this becomes viable. And again, it's a nice way of removing your opponent's powerful monsters. Obviously this one has to target though, but again, Flamberge, you don't want to send them to the graveyard, so instead you can attach it to your rank and boom, they don't get the effect anymore. Or if your opponent had another monster, you can use their Flamberge to send their other monster to the spell trap zone. So it's always nice. I don't really dead draw it, but of course there are times when you could. That's why it's only a 1-off. You would rather search this. Unless you're starting, then you don't mind having it in your opening hand, as long as you can make a combo. And this deck is actually pretty consistent. There are 2 1-card starters, or you have a bunch of level 2s and you just need basically 2 of them. Actually, no, shit. My bad, 1-card starter, Beckon and Beast as well. So again, another reason why you must play this, I believe. Because it's a 1-card starter. Why not play 1-card starters? I mentioned this on stream. Most of my decks I play are usually Rogue Tier 3, and they are usually 1.5 to 2-card starters. Some do have 1-card starters, but they don't end with like an insane board. It's just more. For example, generators. If you have Lopter, you summon him, tribute, bring out Mardell gets the field, and then you can end. So that's technically a 1-card starter, but you just get the field, you know, nothing else. You have to rely on what else is on your hand. While a card like Spright Starter, you use this, get blue gets Jet gets another spell, and you can end with Elf, IP, and something else. Or again, depends on what your hand is. I'll get into it when I talk about the pros and cons, because that is something big. Alright, so now the extra deck. We have Omega. Honestly, I would rather change this to Baron de Fleur and that level 8 Synchro. I think it's Accelerator or something like that. The one who brings back a level 2 from the grave. But yeah, I don't have either of them, and that's 60 UR. So if you have them already, I would personally have them. I'll just remove something you don't need. Maybe like Cat Shark, because having a free Baron is always nice. Djinn Buster, a negate if you have 2 darks on the field. Centuria. I've gone into this a lot because this is the card you go into if they do have a problem card, because you can't be destroyed by battle, you can return it back to their hand. Or what I've done most of the time is go into this, then end up going into Zeus. So that's always nice. Cat Shark, only for OTK, you don't need it. Honestly, you could replace this. I just wanted to fill in the extra deck. 2 Gigantic, your starter pretty much when you go into your extra deck. Special summon a level 2 from your deck, and then it stops your opponent from being able to use Nibiru, so it's an amazing card. Does come up for those OTK sometimes if you use a link to go into him, because then he gets double damage. And then if you add in with Pixies or Gamma Burst, oof, a lot of damage right there. But I think 2's enough. I don't think you need 3. 3 is if you went in for some random grindy game, but as we know, matches usually end on the 2nd, 3rd or 4th turn. If they go above that, that's when maybe a 3rd would have been good, but come on, averagely they don't go to that anymore. 1 down the Magician for the Zeus himself. Now the links, IP Masquerena, usually on your end board. Spright Elf, 2 of them, very important card, just like Gigantic. Constantly every turn you can Monster Reborn. And if you go onto their arrows, they can't be targeted, and that comes up a lot. Not even just for this deck, but Snake Eyes use it. Other decks use this card because it's so easy to get out, and yeah, it's powerful. The non-targeting is powerful. Pit Knight, I do like going into this card. It's annoying. It's a when effect instead of you can, because it has to be timed right for it to use its effect. So for example, if I use Spright Elf and Pit Knight's pointing to Elf, it can use its effect to negate a monster on the field. But if your opponent chains to the Spright Elf, then Pit Knight can no longer use its effect. It has to go right off the Spright Elf. So yeah, it's annoying. It's similar to Lady Labyrinth, where when you use a trap card, Lady Labyrinth has to go next in the chain to then set a trap card from the deck. But if you chain anything after their trap, Lady Labyrinth can't go off. Nightmare Unicorn, obviously for the IP. Appaloosa, again another target for IP if you want to go into it. And Underworld Goddess, because this deck can easily spam, and in case they do have a card that you just can't get out, Goddess can get out any card. So now the deck profile is done, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons and what I thought were good and bad playing this deck. Let's start with the pros. The pros are, as I was talking earlier, they do have one card starters, and honestly, as mentioned before, I usually play decks that are usually 1.5 to 2 card combos. Again, unless it's like Lopto where you only really just get the field with Mardell. I've never really experienced a deck that has one card and can establish a full board pretty much because of one card. I know Snake Eyes do that on a regular, but usually with rogue decks and tier 3s and unders, you don't really do that. So the fact that this does basically have that with Sprite Starter or Beckoning Beast, you can have a nice board by the end of your turn by one card, not just relying on just like one negate or one interruption. This can have 2, 3, 4 interruptions. Another pro, I would say it's fairly consistent. Honestly, even by having Frog the Jam in your deck, because of the unexpected dies, because of the Sprite Starters, because you do have quite a lot of level 2s, even if you draw Frog the Jam, as long as you have another level 2 of you, you can then special summon them and then go into Gigantic and do your plays there. It rarely bricks, honestly. Of course, you're gonna have bricks. Every deck does. You see Snake Eyes who are very consistent, still brick. But most of the time, you can at least play, which is good. That's what you want. You want to be able to play. You don't want to have a turn where you literally just set, pass, and that's it. Another pro, I do love that it can spam, can get a lot of monsters on the field quick, usually ending with like a red, carrot. This is a good hand, by the way. IP, Elf. That's 2 minimum negates. IP, whatever you want to go into, and an Elf when you bring back Blue or Jet or whoever you want to bring back. It could be a follow-up or it could be a honest. I do like it can spam, and then you can go into multiple things if you did want to go into Goddess after, or a fat ass Appaloosa, or if you just want to go all in attack mode and then use Gamma Burst for that OTK all over 2,500 attack or around there. It helps. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. And the last pro I can think of, it can play good amount of non-engine. 12 hand traps and 2 cool buys and cross out, equaling 15 cards, where it's either hand traps or protecting from hand traps. Of course, especially in a best of 1 game, which gives you a 50-50 chance of going first or second, you want to have enough hand traps or enough protection to stop your opponent. Now the cons, there's only 2 I can think of, because again, I'm not an expert at this deck. Honestly, I've only been playing for a week and a half, so I can't sit here and be like, oh, these are everything was amazing, this was everything bad, this is how it needs to fix, and so on. I can't speak of this deck as I'm a pro. I'm not. If I had like a month on the deck, then yeah, I would have more knowledge and experience on the deck that I could actually give a full analysis on it. But for less than 2 weeks, there's only so much I can say, and I don't want to say things that are actually wrong. So I'm just going to say from my experience in this week and a half of what I found wrong with the deck. First thing, even though you do have cards like your Honest or Gamma Burst, it does struggle with attack. Like, there'll be a time when your opponent just has one single Catch Terror card and it's like, shit, how do I get rid of it? You know, like, it's like you have to go into so many plays just to get over one card. Like, you have to either go into Elf and then into Gigantic, so Gigantic has 3,200 attack, or you have to search your Pixies or your Gamma Burst to get over. And it's just like you're going over and beyond just to get over single cards. The attack can sometimes be annoying and a problem, and it just really changes what your original plan wanted to be just by having a single high attack monster on your opponent's side of the field. Other decks can continue their plan A. This deck has to go to like plan C if they want to get over a high attacking monster. It's a bit weird to say that this deck struggles to high attack monsters, but it does, unfortunately. And the second, a lot of their cards are hit, you know, so when it comes to the grindy game, there's a bit of an issue. Let's say you did have the best start. You have red, carrot, elf, masquerina. Most likely you've used a lot of resources, and then your opponent's playing. You have to also decide, do you want to bring back blue or jet for the follow-up turn, or do you want to bring back a card that can continue to negate them? Now, if you bring back a card that continues to like negate or stop your opponent, then that's good. But if they play over that, it's like, well, what do you do next turn? It's like a 50-50. Do you want to follow up, or do you want to stop your opponent even more? Most of the time, you can stop your opponent and they surrender, or you still end up with elf on your field. So when it is your turn, you can then bring back something else. But if your opponent does manage to somehow get over your interruptions, you don't really have a follow-up for next turn. It's not like certain other decks like Infernoble, Snake Eyes, Branded, or even Labyrinth, where they can always have a follow-up for next turn. This deck, I would say, again from my experience, if you decide to try and interrupt your opponent even more, usually the next turn you may have nothing to follow up on, unless your Spright off is still on the field. And again, like I just said in the beginning of that, they have a lot of cards hit. Spright starter to 2, blue to 2, and jet to 1. For a deck that's not even tier 1 or tier 2, I don't even know if some people consider it tier 3 anymore. It's got too many cards hit. But of course, look, this is what happens when you are the best deck. They were last year, so of course they were supposed to get hit. Will they get some of their cards back? I think eventually they will, because they're not dangerous anymore. Even if they had all their cards unlimited, I think the most they'll get is tier 2. I don't think they would be tier 1 anymore. So why not bring back some cards? I'm not saying bring them all unlimited, but maybe jet to 2 and blue to 3, because it is just a searcher. That's like most decks. Most decks have a searcher for a monster, so why not? Or just bring starter to 3, since it restricts them to level 2s. I don't think that would be a big deal, honestly. That is another con. They do have restrictions, which can be annoying, because if you are going second, and let's say you use Spright starter, and if your opponent, and this has happened to me before, has no more interruptions on their field, but they still have cards on the field, I can't go into a card like Zeus, because sometimes you just want to be like, cool, if I Zeus them now, they're screwed, especially like a Kashtira player. If Spright starter didn't have a restriction, you could summon him, bring out a level 2, don't use their effect, bring out another level 2, because these guys are inherent special summons, so they're not effects, go into any of the rank 2s, and then so on, and then go into Zeus, and boom, they die. But sadly with Spright starter, you can't do that. And yeah, if you go into Gigantic, once you use his effect, even though it stops Nibiru, it stops yourself from climbing to link 3 or 4 or whatever. So that is a con as well. Yeah, that's it. It really was a fun deck to use. It's not that simple. There were still many misplays I was doing, but once you continue to play and play and play, you just learn from those mistakes, and then you learn the deck even more. So I would say it's like a mediocre level deck. I just can't believe I managed to get Frog the Jam into Master Rank. This is one of my greatest Master Duel achievements. It's up there with Obelisk the Tormentor when I did it with Plunder Patrols. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. Would appreciate it if you left a thumbs up. And as mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. With the deck profile complete, I may now confirm I am the world's strongest duelist, as I managed to get Frog the Jam into Master Rank. It was an honor playing you, sir. Until next time, Slauser is out.